Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are examining the fractional reserve banking and wanting to see to what extent this fractional reserve banking has become the main inhibitants to the development of Islamic banking towards the application of the Quranic al-bay' as revealed in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah 275. As we know today that many consumers are not happy with Islamic bank, and one of the criticism against Islamic banking is that the products resemble the Islamic banking product resembles the interest-based product. But then some of the critics would not go into that route, but then criticizing Islamic banking as being part of the interest-bearing system, since they are operating within the fractional reserve banking, and for that reason they were claiming that the Islamic banking is not Islamic due to the fact that they are essentially an actor in the fractional reserve banking, and of course they were saying that the fractional reserve banking produces what we call financial fragility, which is the vulnerability of a financial system to a financial crisis. So if the Islamic bank is absorbed into this FRB system, then it is also an agent that can produce fragility that is not desired in any economic system, because as we know that the maqasid sharia, or the intent of the law, is to promote justice, and one way to promote justice is through the protection of the daruriyat. The daruriyat is the basic necessity of the human being, namely the deen, life. Number 3 is the aqal. Number 4, family. And number 5 is the wealth, or al-mal. And for sure that when we have a boom and bust and economic instability, then it will adversely impact our earning, our jobs, and our property, or al-mal. So for this reason, when FRB is have proven to be responsible for financial fragility, we do not want the Islamic bank, to be part of the actors in this FRB system, because it, daily affect the daruriyat that the maqasid, that the Sharia intend to protect. We can see that financial fragility does not only mean inflation and hyperinflation, because the FRB can also induce a recession, when the central bank come in to contain inflation by increasing the interest rate, and that makes cost of credit very expensive, and the demand for goods and services may fall down, because the consumer and businesses saw that the cost of fund is very high and they couldn't afford to borrow in order to consume or to invest. So financial fragility, is the cause of the boom and bust of economies, and Islamic bank must be very careful not to be engaged in the so-called expansion of this financial instability. We can see that in the year 2008, the U.S. subprime crisis, which is caused by the overlending and overborrowing that increase the asset prices, and for that reason we can see that the overlending and borrowing during this U.S. During this 2008 have caused the conventional bank, to make a lot of easy loan, which is subprime loan, to those people who are not viable, to those people who have low credit scoring, and for that reason, this subprime loan get into default, and that further resulted in the collapse in the MBO market, the collateralized bond obligation market, and for that reason we can see that the U.S. subprime crisis, starting from the a big default in the commercial bank from the subprime loan, and the collapse of the default in the bond backed by those subprime loans. So we saw a loss of $500 trillion from stock, bonds, properties, and other assets, right? And we can see that the loss by private pension funds are up to 5 trillion, and as nearly 200 banks failed between 2008 and 2011. And then we see that $19 trillion of U.S. household wealth were destroyed. So meaning that those households who are investing in bond and stocks, so they can see their money vanishing into thin air, and over 90 million jobs lost in the USA. So we can see this particular tragedy in the U.S. economy is what we do not want to see taking place in our country, because our country is supposed to be partly driven by Islamic bank, which is based on the Sharia, and the intent of the Sharia, or the maqsid of the Sharia, is to protect al-mal. So we should not allow the Islamic bank to be exposed to the FRB, and then letting the economy to collapse, like what we saw in the US 2008 subprime crisis. So this is very important, the fact that the FRB system should be properly examined, and the Islamic finance fraternity must be able to voice out to the regulator with regards to the nature of the Islamic banking product that is prone to induce the excessive lending and borrowing, as they are based on the FRB system. If we look at, for example, the conventional banking under the fractional reserve banking, we can easily see that the funding side is based on debt, which is interest-bearing debt. The CASA deposit and the fixed deposit are all based on debt, since deposit are loans supplied by the depositors to the bank, and the bank will use the deposit fund to make interest-bearing debt. That is housing loans, auto loan, business loan. And so we can see that when that is the case, the bank are subjected to the regulation that they have to keep 5% of their reserve as cash, 5 million, and the rest of the reserve will be turned into loans, 95 million here, right? So we can see that when the bank lend 95 million to the borrower, and the borrower will deposit the money into the banking system. So we can see that based on the deposit multiplier formula, we can see that the total deposit created by the banking system will be $2 billion. Where we got it from, we take the initial deposit of 100 million, divided by the statutory reserve requirement of 5%, and we got 2 billion. So 2 billion of deposit created by the commercial banking system. And that is basically what we are worried about, because this money is created by a private entity, or they are created by private commercial banks that does not belong to the government. These are private enterprises, which is independent from government. The government can only control this commercial bank by virtue of the monetary policy. So you can see that out of 100 million initial deposit, the commercial bank are able to create 2 billion of their own money, because the money supply, as we see earlier, is consists of the currency plus the demand deposit. So demand deposit is the 2 billion created by the commercial bank, and the 100 million is, we assume that this is injected by the government through the printing press, right? So the total money created is 100 million plus 2 billion, and that is a big amount of money to be created by the commercial bank, relative to only 100 million by the government. If you look at the Islamic banking assimilation into the FRB, we can see that the debt-based Islamic banking can easily assimilate into the fractional reserve banking, since deposits are leverage funds, right? The fund the bank uses to make murabaha or to make tawarruk is coming from borrowing, is coming from debts, right? The bank issue qarb deposit and tawarruk deposit, which are essentially debts. When you label the funds as deposit, then the Basel standard would automatically assume that the deposit is a loan the bank acquire from the depositors. Now this deposit is now utilized by the bank to make debt-based tawarruk and murabaha. So we have tawarruk and murabaha, which essentially are debt like the loans, right? And for this reason, we can see that when the bank uses deposit fund, qardu and tawarruk funds to make tawarruk and murabaha financing, then we can see that the Islamic bank is able to create money just like the conventional bank when murabaha ended up as bank deposits, right? So this is how we would like to see, and we can see this in our illustration over here, which I presume that we can continue later on to further look into how the same money creation can be seen happening in the Islamic banking system that operates under the fractional reserve banking. Thank you very much. I'll see you again in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.